What's up, everyone? Joe with ECRM here with Kaleigh from NIQ, and today we're going to talk about zebra striping and non-alcoholic adult beverages. So, what is zebra striping?
Zebra striping. Not sure where the term came from, but I do think it does a good job of describing what the trend is. And it's this idea that somebody in a certain drinking occasion will consume both an alcohol-containing product alongside of a non-alcohol product. And so it's that idea of going back and forth in your consumption. And that sort of creates this gray area in the industry around moderation. But really, zebra striping is just, going back and forth to really maintain control throughout a drinking occasion.
Okay, and what I thought was really interesting about that, because Kaleigh presented yesterday at our on and off-premise adult beverage session, is the fact that initially when people think about NA adult beverages, they're thinking about people who are not drinking at all. But in reality, a lot of people that are purchasing NA beverages are actually consumers of alcoholic beverages.
Correct.
So what are the numbers there?
Yeah, so the first number we can take a look at that you talked about there is the buyers of non-alcohol beer, wine, and spirits. About 92% of them are still purchasing alcohol-containing products. Whether it is for that moderation aspect, it could be for gifting, it could just be a hosting session where they're looking to be inclusive of all of their party guests. So they offer both non-alc and alcohol-containing options. The other thing that I think is huge is that zebra striping number. And this idea of zebra striping is one that I think has been around for a long time. But I'm not sure that, or so we're curious, I'm not sure either of those terms are widely used. It's just us in the industry talking about them. But when it comes to zebra striping, we see just under half of consumers that are drinking in the on-premise, so those bars and restaurants, are consuming both non-alcohol and alcohol-containing products in an occasion. And that could be, a cocktail and a non-alcohol beer, or it could be a cocktail and a soda, perhaps. So it's just that idea that somebody's looking for sessionability, I would say, in the occasion in which they're, celebrating or just hanging out with their friends.
Yeah, because I think it's cool because traditionally in the old days, it would be you'll have a drink, then you have a glass of water or seltzer water, and then you have another drink. But at least now you could keep at least some flavorful drinks going throughout that whole time.
Exactly. Sometimes those non-alcohol beers I've heard been called fourth quarter beers.
Okay.
Because somebody could be at a sports bar celebrating the first three quarters of the game, consuming some beers, and then they realize, that fourth quarter they're going to have to depart that bar, and maybe they don't have public transport like they do in New York. But those beers come into play in that fourth quarter, and it's a very responsible push by a bar or restaurant to have a consumer stick within the beer world and not necessarily jump over to drinking a water.
Okay. So how can brands and retailers capitalize on this?
Yeah, I think the first thing is in the on-premise side of things, having cocktails and non-alcohol cocktails side by side on a menu can be really important and beneficial to the consumers that come into your bar or restaurant. So that's the first piece I would say. And then when it comes to retailers and brands, I know that there are a lot of retailers that are finally taking, a look at this as a very important category to have at the shelf, dedicating 16 feet of shelf space and carving out a full non-alcohol beer, wine, and spirits section in the store. So retailers are taking note. But again, there's a lot of products out there that are being launched. So as a brand, you really need to ensure you're setting yourself apart from other non-alcohol brands at the shelf, whether that's through your packaging, whether that's through flavor, it could potentially be price or some type of value proposition. But the other thing I think non-alcohol brands have really unique to what they do is that they're able to sell direct to consumer or on something like Amazon or Walmart.com, where they can sell outside of that three-tier system because they do not have alcohol in them. Now, we always want three-tier compliance, but in this case, I think it's a good opportunity to build up a brand, whether that be on social or something, and then make some of those sales and strengthen retail partnerships at the same time. Because you might not be able to get on shelf, but you can definitely try to form that DTC route. Yeah,
that's a great point. I thought something you mentioned before, when, making sure they're side by side on the menu. I think and on premise, I think, if you're a person that likes this type of drink, right? Drink A with alcohol, maybe to let them know that, okay, this is the equivalent non-alcohol one. So if you do want to order it or that if I like this, I'm going to like this NA beverage. and then you could just bounce back and forth and still kind of maintain that.
Exactly. And that's sometimes where low proof spirits comes into play too, where it's a lower ABV, but then it's more of that sessionable cocktail too. But I think it's a great opportunity to sort of test menus in bars and restaurants to see which plays better. And maybe it's both, having a mocktail set of drinks, but also having a cocktail and showcasing that you are able to sub it for an NA spirit option. And that really elevates a cocktail from just being, you know, those mixture of juices, or elevates a mocktail, I should say, from being a mixture of juices. So a lot of opportunity there.
Yeah, and they've come a long way, and I just see them getting better and better at it.
Oh yeah, and we'll just continue to see more and more of that, I think, over the next couple of years.
Definitely. So, all right, awesome. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks, Joe.